So flock cameras. Flock. Here we are. Here's the video. Flock safety. A lot of you might not even know what that is. Some people might not even care. But flock safety, in layman's terms, is a private company that sells automated license plate readers to police departments, HOAs, and businesses. So those cameras photograph every car that drives by, not just suspects, and they log the plate, the time, the location, and even physical descriptions like the colors, car, and type. There's hundreds of thousands of these cameras across the U.S., and they're mainly networked together. So, and the rate that they put them up is rather alarming. We're moving towards a surveillance state, more so than we already are in. So the main question, or the main guise that a lot of this is under is, well, we need these to help stop crime. We need these cameras in our cities and to help the police, stop crime. Well, Flock itself is not a crime fighting tool. And the cameras don't only watch criminals, they watch everybody. And I mean, when I say watch everybody, I mean they every time that your car passes it, it's logged, whether you're in the wrong or not. It logs everybody, everything going by it. And I've also seen some videos saying that even when you're not on a car, if you're on like a bicycle or even walking by, that it will it'll take a picture. So, the data that can be used to figure out, and when they log all that, the data that they're logging can be used to figure out where you work, where you worship, where you visit, what your daily routine is like. Like, I understand the points coming from people that are worried about crime, but I also fear that those are the same people that look at the child safety on the, like the OS verification that they're pushing towards operating systems and phones to protect the children. I fear that those are the same people that more than likely support flock cameras. The age verification is a very slippery slope. They're using that as a guise to just collect your ID. And then anything that you do on that phone, they are tying it directly to you, which is, I mean, it's just blatant surveillance. It's the same thing that they did in after 9/11. When 9/11 happened, they pushed out the Patriot Act, and we went to war with terrorism. We started our war on terrorism, and then next thing we know, Snowden leaks the documents, and we discover we're being spied on by our own government. So, but this isn't about that. I won't go on that tangent. But the network effect is kind of the scary part of flock cameras. So the individual camera it kind of seems harmless, but the network is the problem. While there's hundreds of cameras across a city or multiple cities that share data with law enforcement and can reconstruct your entire travel history. And then it's warrantless. So the reason that they do this is because they don't have to get a warrant. And you can voice your opinions about that, but I think it's this is ridiculous. How is this even allowed? And I don't think a lot of people, especially older people, are not as upset about this. I feel like that they've kind of sipped the Kool-Aid when it comes to these issues. And they don't really see the problem. They have the mindset of, well, I have nothing to hide, so why would I care? Well, that's not the mindset to have, first and foremost. But to each their own. Everyone's going to live their life however they do. But I definitely think that this is I honestly can't believe how we got here as a society, how we let this happen, and how people defend this. But regardless of that, so the data retention with the flock system. So the flock cameras store your plate details for 30 days by default, but departments can extend that. And that's weeks of movement. I mean, to and from all across the city, every city. So there's weeks of movement data on innocent people. that weren't suspected of anything. Like, I'm gonna let that sink in for a minute. So they're spying on you. It's essentially a spray and pray. Think of it like applying for a job. Like right now, the job market, it sucks. It sucks. The economy sucks. So you're firing out a bunch of resumes. If you do the spray and pray method, you're firing out hundreds of resumes a day, and then just hoping for a call back. That's essentially what Flock is doing with their data collection. They are collecting data on everybody for the chance that they might need one or two suspects, or say even in a massive city like Chicago or New York, where they might need 50 suspects, information on 100 suspects. It really doesn't matter. The thing that always gets me is in today's day and age of technology, where we have the capabilities that we do, we're still trying to advance more, especially when it comes to policing. And I don't necessarily agree with that. I think flock cameras are a nuisance to society. They're a blatant tool utilized for mass surveillance on a nationwide scale. I know that there's some cities around the U.S. that have, well, banned them. They've torn them down. They've bagged them up. I know a lot of people are going out right now and covering up the flock cameras with trash bags or, doing whatever. And I can't condone any of that. I can't condone anybody destroying the property. But it's just like the data center issue, where a lot of folks are going to their local city governments in speaking about this issue. They're very vocally voicing why they don't want this, why they feel that this is unsafe for their community, and the local government, most of them at least, aren't listening. They don't care. It's the same thing like with the data centers, that all politicians are corrupt, from local to federal. And, we can argue about that in the comment section, but I'm going to try to not make this a political video. I'm not even really political as it is. I care about my liberties and I care about your liberties. I don't think that any government should be able to infringe on that. I don't think that they should be able to surveil us without a warrant. If there's no probable cause, they should not be able to sit there and watch us. Especially when a lot of these cameras are at playgrounds or swimming pools. Like, if you're looking for criminals, why do you have a flock camera facing a playground? Why are people viewing the flock camera facing the playground? Especially after all this Epstein stuff just happened. Like, it doesn't sit well with me. It really doesn't sit well with me. So with the use of flock cameras, and if you know that you're constantly being surveilled, you might think twice. You might think twice about doing a lot of things, even if they aren't illegal. So if you're thinking about going to a protest, or, a church, a mosque, a synagogue, anything like that, a union meeting or a political rally, anything like that, you might have second thoughts about that, because you're being surveilled. All of this is, you're being surveilled. And they're keeping logs of it. And the chilling effect on behavior itself is a violation of your First Amendment rights. I mean, even if no one ever looks at your specific data, this is a blatant violation. And there's almost no legal framework in governing the flock cameras. I mean, most states don't have any laws that specifically regulate the ALPR cameras, the license plate reading cameras, the data that comes with them. So since there's no laws that regulate this, they can pretty much do whatever they want. And there's no requirement to tell you that your data was collected. There's no way to request deletion. There's no recourse if it's misused, and the police can query the data at any time without a warrant. Like, how is no one upset about this? Like, I do see some outrage, but I don't think there's enough. And I'm not calling for anybody to do anything, illegal or anything like that. I don't condone that, obviously. But I just think that even talking about this with people that are less educated on the topic would do nothing but benefit us as a society. I mean, this is ridiculous. We're allowing our government. I don't know if you guys have ever read the book 1984, but we're there. We're literally there. And I don't want to sound like, some guy that's off his meds on, YouTube here, but it is what it is. Somebody's got to say it, and I'll be the one. We don't need flock cameras. We don't. This is this is like one of the worst guises I've ever seen for mass surveillance. Well, it helps the police departments. Well, they can catch criminals quicker. Well, this, that, and the other. So all throughout time when these weren't a thing, the agencies did fine. They did fine. I mean, yes, more criminals got away, but now we have DNA. Now we have a device that sits in our pocket that tells them our exact coordinates at all times within a very small radius. So why do you need flock cameras? I really don't understand it. And there's talk that they're going to I made a previous video on graphene OS. This is a Pixel 9 Pro XL whatever. I made a video on graphene, and this is a whole rabbit hole. Like, I know a lot of people probably won't watch all the way through this video, and that's completely fine. But for the people that do, there are options, and obviously with Flock, there's not many options. I mean, for example, I went to my grandfather's the other day, and I counted how many Flock cameras were along the way, and I live in a fairly remote area. There's, it's pretty good distance between me and the neighbors. There's not many people that live on my street. The whole nine. Well, my grandfather lives in a city. So I just wanted to see, from the country into the city, how many flock cameras there were. And there were eight flock cameras. And keep in mind, this is not a very long drive. It's maybe a 15-minute drive. Like a 20-minute drive. So, you kind of have to think, if they put these flock cameras on every corner of every intersection, and even in parks, and it just playgrounds, swimming pool, like businesses start to put them in their businesses, like, what's the point? I mean, my generation as it is, I feel like a lot of people nowadays, if you look at, like, even like going out, like going to a bar or a club or whatever, everyone just stands around now. Like, back in the day, people used to let their guard down and have fun. But now, especially with my generation, we have to worry about being recorded all the time. Someone's constantly got a camera out. So people are afraid to be themselves, especially in public, because they're constantly being surveilled. Even if they're doing nothing wrong, like Flock's geared towards, helping the police, they're still being surveilled. People aren't themselves if they're being surveilled. And another thing that I will say, so with the flock cameras, that their majority of the flock cameras are in low income neighborhoods, or they have a higher frequency in low income neighborhoods, and the wealthy gated communities typically do not. And if they do, it's down the road, or in the there are a few. I have researched a few that they do have near the entrance. But the issue when it comes into flock cameras and having them on the streets, having them everywhere. I mean, if it was up to Flock, they would have these things on every street, at every intersection, at every nook and cranny of everything. And even some parks are using them, like on trails. Like, I recently went to a park that had a flock camera on the trail. How? There's no cars going down that. So what's the point? You know what I mean? Like, if the whole purpose, the whole public speaking point, how they're trying to feed the public Flock is, it's for public safety to help law enforcement find criminals, why are they like, for their cars, that is, why are they putting them in playgrounds? Why are they putting them at swimming pools? Why are they putting them in parks? It doesn't add up. And I will go back to well, I have nothing to hide, because a lot of people say that. And privacy is not about hiding your crimes. It's not about doing crime and trying to hide it or being mischievous or anything like that. It's simply just about freedom. I mean, we're supposed to be the freest country. What a lot of people say. We're supposed to be the freest country. Or we say, land of the free, home of the brave. Um, as of recently, the freedoms seem to be going away. I mean, how can we allow this to happen? And the public, there's public outrage for this, and they don't care. Um, I really don't understand it. The founders wrote the Fourth Amendment specifically because the British used general warrants to monitor everybody. They're using flock because they don't have to get a warrant. They don't have to get a warrant. They do not have to get a warrant. That's why they use this. That's why it's a third party. That's why flock is its own private company. It's to mitigate liability, and also they don't have to get a warrant. All this is thought through. All this aligned perfectly. I'm sure in some boardroom at some time they sat down and talked about this. Because the technology's been here for a long time. We've been able to do this for years now. But as of recently is really when well they started putting up flock cameras. And if you look at the amount of flock cameras within the past few years, it's ridiculous. But I'll say this. This is the last thing I'll say regarding flock cameras and my thoughts on the topic. Mass surveillance is what an authoritarian government wants to do, and it has no place for that in a free society. It has no place for this United States. None. I'm not calling for anybody to go vandalize these, but I definitely think that you should make your voice heard. You should go out and speak to your local city, like your city government. Like if they have a city hall meeting, go talk to the city council. Voice your opinions. If they don't listen, they blow you off. I mean, voice your opinions on social media. The city hall meetings are recorded, so they'll be in 4K blowing you off. And if enough people, and that's an issue that they're having now, is a lot of these city hall meetings, they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear the public opinion. They don't care what your normal Joe Schmo has to say, because they don't care. Either they're in the pockets, flock is in their pocket, which this is all my opinion. This is all in my opinion. I believe that they're corrupt. I mean, if you're in a public position, you're not listening to the people that voted for you, and you allow a company that enables mass surveillance without a warrant in a free country, and that's just okay. Like, I gotta be careful with my wording here, but it's really sad. It's really sad. I think a lot of terrible things have happened. I mean, great things toward. When I say terrible things, I mean terrible inventions, terrible practices against our freedom. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, you should not be able to surveil a citizen of a free country without a search warrant. There should not be a loophole. There should not be a way around this. You point blank should not be able to do this. And I mentioned before, and this is like the tip of the iceberg. I mean, in general mass surveillance, this is terrifying. But they do have other tools that they use. Like, a lot of these conspiracy theorists will come out years beforehand and say certain things. For example, Wi-Fi. I forget the name of the GitHub, but there was a GitHub recently where you can deploy this, and it's essentially like a I don't know, if you play Call of Duty, it's like the what is it? The heartbeat sensor? Not really. It's not. It doesn't detect your heartbeat, but it uses the frequencies from your Wi-Fi to bounce off your walls and then detect where people are in your home. It's a real technology. You can go on GitHub and find it right now and test it for yourself. It's terrifying. It's terrifying. And agencies have been using that for a while. So if you've been paying attention, a lot of the technology that they use at home, they develop and test while they're at war. A great example of this is the Stingray, the ISMI catcher, which is your phone's unique identifier. So the police agencies can use this without any type of warrant or anything. Again, without any warrant or anything. So, granted, they could be targeting somebody that is a suspect that they do have the paperwork for, but if you're in that range, your phone automatically connects. It can't, like, again, it is the same spray and pray method. So, there's devices out there that will help you, um, not have to worry as much, that will log the threats, and then you'll be able to go back and to look at them later on. There's a sorry, you won't be able to see the bar because it's chroma keyed out, but that device itself is called the Stingray Hunter or Ray Hunter. It's a project on GitHub. I will probably be putting out a video on how to flash that and set that up for yourself. But I do appreciate you guys sticking here until the end and listening to me rant about flock and flock cameras, mass surveillance, and how I feel that our nation's failed the younger generation. I mean, not even just in the economic sense, but we don't have the same freedoms that previous generations had because of advancements in technology. And no one seems to care. No one bats an eye. No one seems to care, and the few that do seem to get silenced. So be it. This is my take on all that, and hate me for it. So be it. I really don't care. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Let me know if I missed anything. I know that this was kind of like just a rant. Like, I literally just recorded myself ranting. But I do really appreciate you guys sticking to the end, and let me know what you guys think.